Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number 1 in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, friends. Oh, yeah. Welcome, everybody, to Tiger Claw Radio. This is your host, Critical Failure. So last week we did the PlayStation 2 special. A lot of heartfelt memories about PS2 in that era. This week we're going to take a look at the PS3. Come on now. You guys knew that was coming. We're going to look at the PS3, and we're going to follow up a little bit on the PS2 stuff from last week. For music, we're going to play tracks from the Whitewoods album, Spaceship Earth. Now, you guys have probably heard this already. This is some YouTube stuff that's been going on. Pyrocynical here on YouTube. He used a Whitewoods track for his outro, Forever and a Day. It was how I got introduced to Whitewoods. And then somebody who was sampled in that track enabled Sony Music Group to claim his entire channel in a hilarious piece of copyright law use. So, in solidarity, we're going to be taking a look at other tracks from the Whitewoods album that are not Beach Walk, although Beach Walk is on that album. And that album's free. If you head over to Bandcamp and you look them up, they released that on Business Casual, and you can open up Business Casual in Bandcamp and get yourself a copy of the Whitewoods album, Spaceship Earth. It's a heck of a great album. Stick with us. When we come back, more video games stuff and things for your ear satellites. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Is that what you're doing? You've got nothing to fear. In a little while we'll be silent. Here. In the echoes of the mind. We'll be swimming in the echoes of her mind. But if you've done it once, you know it easy. Going back a second time. Shut your eyes like you're sleeping. If you wanna see and hear, little whisper thoughts in your noggin that you gotta hear. In the echoes of mine, we are swimming in the echoes of her mind. But if you've done it once, you know it easy. Going back a second time.
Oh, yeah. That's DMT Mother from Whitewoods. Heck of an album, man. You know, it's funny. When I first downloaded that, I was really into the track Beach Walk, and I was like, you know what? Beach Walk's going to be my favorite track, and I'm really not going to be able to get into the rest of this as much. But that wasn't the case. That whole album is 100% airtight. Absolutely solid album. I looked into getting it in vinyl, but I would have had to have it shipped from the UK, and it would have been very, very expensive, from what I understand. The one opportunity I had to get it on vinyl. I don't think you can get it anymore. All right. The PS3. We're going to talk a bit about the PS3. Now, the way I did this last week is the way I think these should be done. People do their retrospectives, okay? And there's temptation to read up on how these things went and look into the textbook history of a console. But that's not what I want to do. What I'm about is the stuff you can't find on Wikipedia. It's about context. So I looked up when this console came out, and that's pretty much it. It says 2006, but I'm really shocked. I don't remember it being that long ago. It's quite some time. But the PS3, to me, when it first came out, was a pie in the sky. I'll never be able to afford a PS3. It came out at a hefty price tag, so I mean, it was a pretty accurate statement towards the beginning. But I remember. I went to college in 2009, right? That's when I started college. So I remember sitting in the hallways waiting to start my first class, and I was listening to the Ben and Derek Random Show, which was a podcast at the time you could get off of the RetroWare TV website. And they were talking back and forth about whether or not they were going to pick up PS3s and whatnot. But it was it was a symbol of technology into the future. And I think the PS3 was the last time that a console really was that symbol for me. Because I wanted one of these things, man. All right, boys and girls, we're going to hear more about that in a little bit. But first, we're going to go back to the van and catch the Vancast from the beginning of the week. Stick with us. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. More about the PS3 next. It's Monday morning, everybody. Time to go do my Monday at work. 6:17. I don't know what the temperature is outside, but it's humid. And I know when the heat of the day kicks in, it's going to be a mean one, boys and girls. So I'm off to the office. Been quite a weekend. I actually got to play games with good old Sean, the gaming beast. Last night, I hung out with him and Alex Swingle over on Discord. And we had some fun. We did a couple of things. Swingle was bringing up some of the games I was getting rid of with the PC games. And he was like, go back and get Warcraft 3. I said, okay. So I ran downstairs to the donate box, stuff that's going to the thrift store, and I got Warcraft 3, and I dusted it off, and I brought it back upstairs, put it in the computer, got it installed. First things first, I like these CD-based games because they oftentimes would do stuff with the extra space on the CD, right? If you had a game that took less than 700 megabytes, or whatever the capacity of a CD-ROM was, they would fill the rest of the space with promotional materials. Sometimes that would be shareware, depending on when it came out. And in this case, it was demos, not demos, demo videos, like trailers. There was a trailer for an early version of World of Warcraft, and there was a trailer for a Diablo 2 expansion. Pretty awesome stuff. So I got the game installed, and it wasn't flawless. It did work, but I had to shut off the two external monitors that I have, or the two additional monitors. I usually operate off of a 3-monitor sweep, right? 3 widescreen monitors, one after another. So the left and the right ones have to be turned off, and then I fire up the middle one, and that seems to work. Okay, so Swingle is like, you got to get the latest patches, man. That's why it's not doing it. All that stuff was fixed with patches. Oh, okay. So Swingle and I head off to the Blizzard website and start looking around, trying to figure out how to get these patches. And what they do now is they have they've got a fully set up install of the game where you download the install and then you put in the CD key, and that unlocks it, and then you're good to go. The install's got everything, all the modern patches and upgrades and everything you need. It's all in there in a single stop. What has me worried at this point is that this is a CD version of the game that I bought from the thrift store of Warcraft 3. And if the CD key gets deactivated when it's used, then this isn't going to work. And I'm thinking that I'm going to be stuck with the CD-ROM version of the game. But I took the time to download it, and then this morning I gave it a shot, and sure enough, it worked. I was surprised. So now I got Warcraft 3, and interestingly enough, it also unlocked the expansion, which I didn't have. So I'm actually pretty doped about this Warcraft 3 thing. All right, now, boys and girls, I'm going to take a quick stop in the grocery store, and we'll resume in just a minute. Right, so Warcraft 3. So I got it downloaded. I didn't get it unlocked till this morning, but I did play a skirmish on the CD-based version last night. Just a quick custom game, 1v1 against the PC. And if you've ever done one of those, like on a brand new game, it's like I spent a bunch of time clicking around just trying to figure out what was what, what was what and how to build things. And then the PC opponent just rolled up on me and steamrolled me, which was fine. I mean, it's kind of what I was expecting. Those games start off, where you're all by yourself and you've got space to raise an army, but and it's all quiet on the Western Front, when the game opens. But the reality is the clock's ticking and you got to move super fast. And if you don't, then that game's outcome is going to be determined relatively quickly by how fast you can click through the menus and get your build order underway. But again, just a quick match to get things going. So, Warcraft 3, digging it so far. I also got to play some what did we play, Sean? Halfway through the install, I was just like, forget it. Let's play something we have. Sean had the idea to check out the what is it now? The Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. Alright, give me 1 second, boys and girls. Now it's time to get gas. Alright, are we done now? Yes, we are. I think we're all done now. Back on the road. Yeah, so we played the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. Now, last night, I can't remember the name of the game we played, but it was the Knights of the Round Table or something like that. One of these King Arthur type themed games. And it was pretty dope. I enjoyed it very much. And then, I don't know, probably got about halfway through the game. Oh, excuse me. We got about halfway through the game or so. And then I had to hang it up so I could go to sleep. This morning I woke up, and after I got Warcraft 3 activated, I went back to the bundle and I played Captain Commando, which is another game out of it. And it was kind of the same story. I got about halfway through it, but what I didn't realize, and I don't think you can do in multiplayer, is it's got, you can save and load states. So that was a pleasant surprise, because I was able to get about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through the game, and then I just saved the state, and then hopefully when I get home tonight I can finish it off. Pretty sweet. Enjoying the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. One thing I will say is I looked at the achievement list this morning, and all of the achievements appear to be mega easy, which I wasn't expecting. Swindle and I were talking about this last night. I was like, we were under the impression, it'll let you credit feed through the games, but if you want to get all the achievements, you gotta bring the skills. Apparently that's not the case. You get an achievement for each game. Each game has their own achievement, and it's like if you just credit feed through it on any difficulty or whatever. I guess there's no difficulty settings, but continue as many times as you want and just get to that ending point, and you get an achievement. Then there's another one for playing every game online with a friend, and there's another one for registering a high score offline locally, which I got, and there's another one for using a continue for the first time, which I got. And that's it. That's all the achievements. So if you're willing to credit feed through every single one of those games, you're gonna 100% the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle easily, which I thought was interesting. I haven't decided if I'm actually gonna try and accomplish that. We'll see. I definitely want to beat Captain Commando, as weird a game as that is. One of the characters is a baby in a mech. Very strange game, very over the top, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. Especially when you're playing games at 5 in the morning. It's just, you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit and just relax. which is something I feel like I need right now. Oh boy, the sun's in my eyes. Give me a second, guys. So that was a good time. Those games don't take a whole lot of time to play through, so maybe they would be a good candidates for, streaming. So I want to take another crack at streaming this week, possibly in the evening sometime. So maybe that would be something we could do. All right, boys and girls. With that, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio, where it's nice and safe. I'm about to get on the highway here so that I can run into the office and do my Monday at work. And after that, maybe I'm feeling the gym today. I don't know. I'll see you guys back in the studio. We're back in the studio here in Tiger Claw Radio. We're going to catch another one from Whitewoods. This is called The Pocket, off of the album Spaceship Earth. It's a free download. Go look it up on Bandcamp and get a copy. It's 11 tracks. Primo stuff. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Vacation all the time. It's just a state of mind. It turns me on when you play that song. Slip it in the pocket. What do you wanna do? Slip it in the pocket. I got those feelings too. Slip it in the pocket. I'll show you more. Slip it in the pocket. If you let me through your door.
Oh yeah, what an album, man. What a super chill summer album. Such great stuff. And it's a shame you can't play Beach Walk on YouTube anymore without getting claimed by Sony Music Group. But, it is what it is. The laws are what they are, and YouTube's policies are what they are. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the PS3. But first, I want to just take a minute to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. These guys are giving of their resources to make sure I can come back every week. So I like to give them early access to the show. As soon as it gets done, I put it up for them, and I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. And they are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Konstantin Kelman. Thank you guys so much for your support. All right, PS3. So in those days, 2009, it was something I couldn't afford. Now, later on, we did manage to get one. We got a PS3. I wish I knew what year it was, what was going on at the time, but we got a slim model much later in the PS3's lifespan. So by the time we came around, the backwards compatibility with the PS2 was gone. I remember the PSN at that time was they had just introduced PS2 games like for sale on the PSN, and there was only like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them. I couldn't tell you what they were, but this was like I was coming off the Virtual Console for the Wii, and I was checking out PSN for the first time, and it was pretty cool, man. I was digging it. But the thing was, this was probably only like 1 year after Sony had this great big data breach. You guys remember that? and the PSN was down for like 2 weeks or something, or a month, or however long it was, like a long time. And then we had those Lizard Squad guys who were taking a lot of credit for a lot of hacks and stuff. So when I was getting into the PS3, it was important to me that I didn't use my credit card in the shop. And to this day, I've never used my credit card for the PSN or with Sony because of the way they handled that data breach. So I would go get cards. I would go get like points cards or whatever they were, credit, gift cards from the grocery store, and that way I could, buy stuff off PSN without using my credit card information. There were a lot of classics for the PSN. Now this is really the good part. Last week I think it was the classics, because getting into it late in the life cycle, I was able to get a lot of the really good games for cheap. Now nothing like it is now. Now it's like it's abandoned ship for PS3 collections. Everybody's jumping off, and you can get all the great games for pennies on the dollar, which is one of the reasons why I think this is an awesome system to talk about. So let's take a look at my list. Now, just like last week, this is in no particular order. These are just games that I remember. And the first one I have on my list is the Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. Mine came with Uncharted 3. It was the first PS3 game I ever played. I loved it to death. And I also got Uncharted 1 and 2 in like a pack with a second controller. So I got that trilogy like right out of the box. I thought it was cool, man. It was really good. I was a big Tomb Raider fan, so I took to the adventure formula. I thought the platforming was very easy, overly easy, because I got used to like the early Tomb Raider punishing like 3D platforming that it had. But it was awesome. It was really good. And the Uncharted 3 multiplayer is still running now. It's set to shut down in September. This is being recorded in late July, so we still got like a month and a half or so to play Uncharted 3 online. That was one, but the game that I really wanted to get a PS3 for was Metal Gear Solid 4. And interestingly enough, it's been several years now, and I never did get Metal Gear Solid 4. We've had other Metal Gear Solid games come out since then, and I never got it. I've only ever played 1, 2, and 3. But that's on my list because that was a landmark game for the PS3. If you look up lists of best PS3 games, people still love Metal Gear Solid 4. I remember a lot of people complaining about the amount of cutscenes there were. It was like you're essentially just watching a game. But whatever. It's Metal Gear Solid 4. Two more that we're going to talk about before we move on, then we'll circle back and finish the list later. Demon's Souls was one that I got. People talk about Dark Souls all the time, but Demon's Souls was essentially Dark Souls, but yet a hub level. It was like an earlier version of Dark Souls. And that was the first like full-fledged like AAA game that I got for the PS3 that was like downloaded. I never got that on disc. And I thought it was really good. I didn't get very far in it because this was when my son was very little. So I couldn't really play a game that I could not put down. That was a problem. If I couldn't put it down, I couldn't like pause it and walk away from it. It was going to cause issues. But I did like it for what it was. And now that my kids are older, I'd like to go back to it. But that's Demon's Souls. Finally, for now, we got to talk about Call of Duty. All right. This was also in the peak of popularity for the Call of Duty franchise. It was a couple years after Modern Warfare 2, and that was an enormous launch of a video game. So I got a hold of a copy of Call of Duty Black Ops. All right. Later on, shortly after that, I think Black Ops was cited in National Geographic. National Geographic, and I don't know why they tackled this subject. They made a list of games that had the top 100 video game endings of all time. It's like the weirdest thing you'd ever find in a National Geographic magazine and or website or what have you. And they listed Call of Duty Black Ops as the #1 video game ending. So weird. So I remember playing all the way through Call of Duty Black Ops and even playing the multiplayer for a good bit. And that was... I want to hate on it because of the people. I had a really difficult time with the people, and it was a tough game. But it was a tough game, and it was really frustrating. But it had a lot of things I really liked. The leveling system was okay. It was enough to keep playing. The maps were good. I liked having a rocket launcher as my secondary weapon, and then the other team would call in choppers with kill streaks, like the spy planes, and I would always kill the spy plane every single time. So I nicknamed my layout the Fly Swatter, right? I would have my assault rifle to just go head to head with the other people, and then I'd get in like a back corner somewhere, pull out the rocket launcher, and take out the spy plane. Wouldn't help my score a ton, but you got to be a team player, man. That's what that game is all about. So Call of Duty Black Ops, as much as it was the dude bro thing, I remember around that time it was also like I would play Black Ops and I would have a great time, but then when I was talking to friends or doing whatever it is that I do, I was like embarrassed. So Black Ops was like a guilty pleasure for me at that time, which was really weird in retrospect. My older brother got me a copy of Black Ops 2 for the Xbox, I think for Christmas, like a couple years later, but the same magic wasn't there. Playing through the original Black Ops was probably the most fun I've ever had playing the Call of Duty series. It was a good time at that time. Now that's 4 games I listed: Uncharted, Metal Gear Solid 4, Demon's Souls, Call of Duty Black Ops. I got a big list here. So we're going to get back to this soon enough. But first, we're going to go back to the van. Because you know how it is. We're going to chronicle throughout the week all the video game stuff that happened. And quite a bit did happen. A lot of fun was had. So let's go check it out and see how it went down. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. More PS3 in a minute. All right, boys and girls. It's the Vancast. It's Wednesday morning. My car's in the shop, so I'm taking my wife's car to work. Hang on a second. And let me tell you, this thing is a beast. Oh boy. Give me a second to get out on the road. All right. And away we go. Oh, I don't know about this, guys. Yep, I think I'm good. Okay, so I've been playing the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. I played it this past weekend, and I played it yesterday, and I played it this morning. I'm knocking the games out one at a time. I'm working on the King of Dragons now. I started playing that this morning. I've beaten every game with the exception of the King of Dragons and Knights of the Round. Those are the last 2 remaining games. Knights of the Round I was kind of saving for last so I could beat it with Durabka. But we'll see. I gotta get that game going. Because I'm pretty close to, knocking them all out. And then I would consider the game finished. Easy achievements, man. But it's been good. It's been good. I opened up a text document this morning to write a guide for the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle because, as I noticed, there were no community guides for the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. Not a single one. So I started writing a tier list, right? Because once I've played through every game in the bundle, I should be able to write a tier list and whatnot. That's one. Another one I was thinking about doing was a guide for Final Fight to showcase all of the characters in Final Fight, which later appear in Street Fighter games, because there were a lot, right? Like some of the just random people you run into, like the random enemies, become big-time Street Fighter characters. Hugo from Street Fighter 3, Poison, right? She always hung out with Hugo. Those are both just characters you run into. Abigail, which was a big deal in Street Fighter 5. He's a boss. Ronaldo's a boss with the big stick. A lot of Street Fighter people in that game, which was really neat. That's probably the best part about that game, because apart from seeing familiar faces, gameplay-wise, it was actually pretty low on my tier list. Pretty low indeed. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. I've been enjoying that very much. I'm about 7 hours in, and I'm still having a great time. And the games that I have beaten, I gotta say, I would definitely go through and play them again with people, for sure. Especially if I could get a 3-person group going, because I know Sean has the bundle, but that would be 2 of us. If we could get a 3rd person, that would be great. So that's been my mornings and evenings the past couple nights. Last night, my wife and I went out to the movies. I hadn't been to the movies in a long time. We went to see Stuber, which was dumb. I've been kind of disgusted with Hollywood over the last several years. So, I kind of stopped going to movies. But we needed to get out. My wife was like, come on, let's go. So, we knew this movie was going to be dumb. Silly. They take a comedian, they pair him up with like an action guy. And then, oh no, isn't he in a pickle? We've seen that kind of movie before. And that's exactly what it was. When we go to the theater now, you got to pick your seats out on a computer before you sit down. It's weird. I don't really like that, man. The whole thing's really uncomfortable. My favorite part about the movie-going experience is that I've always gotten to the movies early. In my entire life, that's the way we did it. My father would take us to the movies when I was a kid, and we'd always get there early so that we could get good seats and we could see every trailer. No exceptions, always early. Now there's no reason to get there early to get a good seat, I guess, because you just pick it off a grid, and most people bought them ahead of time anyway. And everybody's watching the trailers online. So, movie trailers aren't something that's exclusive to going to movies. They haven't been for several years. For a lot of years now, actually. So, that's another thing I noticed is people walk in later than they used to. Like, I remember going to see The Mighty Ducks, the first one, in the theater with my dad. And, how different that was. Alright, give me a second here. So we did that. We made our annual trip to the movies, and now I don't have to go back. Because it was, look, another thing is, we went because it was like a discount day. So we were able to get tickets for like $6 a piece, which is pretty cool. But I saw this movie, Stuber, and it's like, if I just went on a Friday night, this would have been like $15. And I'm thinking back to how that movie went, and I don't want to spoil the story. But, $15, jeez Louise. Could have spent that on like a killer Steam game, you know? The Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle was less than $15 when I got it because of the Steam sales. It's a tough sell for me, man. Even $6 for that movie. Silver, is it Silver or Sliver? It's an old RPG that's on sale right now on Steam that's been on my wish list forever for like $1.25. Like there's things I could do with $6 apart from go see, you know, a lame movie. I don't know. I think the movies are kind of dumb. Oh, gosh, excuse me, man. what else is going on? A second here. I mean, so I guess that's it. I poured all my gaming time into this one game, so not a whole lot else to talk about. Except I got a project I'm working on for Emerald Rangers, another review of a better game this time. This is the first game that I got from Emerald Rangers. It's like, this is actually like a really neat game. So I've got a couple from them before. The first one I reviewed for Emerald Rangers, it was like a treasure hunting simulator, and that was okay. I didn't mind playing it, but it wasn't great. And then I had this Kashik Force game, which was like, didn't make any sense to me. And then Echo Royale, which was just like a scam. This is the first game I'm reviewing for them, which is like, okay, I'm enjoying this. This has got some really good aspects to it. So I do those once a month, so I'll have that turned in by the end of the month, and they'll probably publish it early next month, which will be great. Which will be great, man. The weekend's a little far away, but by the time the weekend gets here, I'm hoping to have completely dunked on this Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, and then we can revisit all the stuff that I bought during the Steam summer sale. I think this weekend I'll probably make a return to Final Fantasy VII and try and push that along a little further. I played that in the stream, and I haven't played it since. But I did beat the stumbling block, that one spot I was stuck at with the 3 bosses. I got through that pretty easily. All right, hang on a second. Hang on. Okay. It's drive time. Let's be safe, everybody. All right, we lived. Did we live? Great. Yeah, so I got Final Fantasy lined up for this weekend. It's funny because I'm not even playing the Final Fantasy games that I got over the Steam sale. I got Final Fantasy 3 would be what I would be playing, you know, if I were following that logic. But I'm focusing on this one game. As it is right now, when I play Final Fantasy VII, the sessions are more spaced out because I'm having problems with them. Like, this morning when I sat down to play, I had 30 minutes. I dragged my feet getting out of bed, so I usually have an hour, but it was only 30 minutes. Now, 30 minutes, I'm not booting up Final Fantasy VII. No way. No way, man. Because I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. One of two things. I'm going to start playing, and then there's going to be a save spot, like, almost right away, like 5 minutes in. And I'm going to go past it thinking, you know what? I still got another 20 minutes or so, or however long it is. I'll play to the next save spot. Then the time for me to be done will come, and I'll be like, oh, crap. There's not another save spot. This is taking forever. And I'll get in this position where I've got to keep playing to get to the next save spot, or just shut it off and lose all my progress. This has happened twice now, playing Final Fantasy VII. Just this playthrough. I think at this point I'm only like 5 or 6 hours into the game. Not that far. I'm in the middle of the Cloud flashback. Cloud flashes back to, you know, being in his hometown with Sephiroth. It's pretty early in the game. I think that clocked at about 40 hours when I looked at like the average completion time. So we're talking like an eighth of the way through the game, maybe a fifth of the way through. Not much, not far. And I'm definitely, like, when you leave Midgar and you finally get to the world map, I'm definitely in the first town. The first thing you do after you leave Midgar is everybody goes to the nearest town and you sit in the inn and start talking. And then during that conversation, it goes to a flashback, and that's where I'm at. One thing's for sure, I need to do some leveling. I need to do some grinding to up my levels, because I know there are a couple of points where I don't want to run into this position again where I hit a boss battle and it just makes me want to throw my hands up with the whole game. And I know the last couple times I played through it, there's a couple of boss battles I have problems with. The biggest one being the one where there's one at one point where you have to play with only Barrett, and Barrett fights like a guy from his past, and you're like out in the desert or something. I don't remember much about it, but I remember at one point in my last playthrough of the game, I got to that spot, and I did that boss battle like 3 times, and I kept losing. So I've got to level Barrett up somehow before that. But, excuse me, that is for another day. For now, I'm going to head into the office and do my Wednesday at work. I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. I'll see you there. Back in the studio, we're talking about the PS3. I got to get through this list quick somehow. Let's see, we'll break it right in the middle, and that's when we'll do the next Vancast, and then we'll call it a day. I got one more Vancast. It's going to happen later. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more bullet points. Okay. We'll do the ones I know the least about first. Rayman Legends. I remember when Rayman Legends came out. This was like Rayman, the Rayman series coming back after being gone for a really long time. I played Rayman on the PS1 a little bit. I remember being younger and my buddy Engie giving me his copy of Rayman because he couldn't get down with it. So when Rayman Legends came out, I remember being like, oh snap, I've got to get this. But it's one I never did actually get. I think that might be the only one on this list I never played. No, it isn't. Fallout New Vegas I have on this list as well. Fallout New Vegas was a multi-platform game. And again, these Fallout games are best to play on the PC. But a lot of people enjoyed it on the PS3. A lot of people. Skyrim is also on this list. Here's the thing about Skyrim, okay? We joke now. It's kind of a meme, Skyrim coming out on all the different consoles that it did. But when Skyrim first came out, you had Xbox 360, PC, and you had PS3. And this was an enormous game release. All right? The group I was with at the time, this is something I often joke about. The group I was working with at the time, I didn't have any sort of machine that could play it. I didn't like when Skyrim first came out. I didn't have a PS3, and my PC couldn't handle it. So I clearly remember sitting in a Skype call with 4 other dudes who were all playing Skyrim, and it was total quiet time. It was the weirdest thing. We were just sitting quietly, and they were playing Skyrim. And once in a while, someone would ask a question, and they were, oh yeah, we'll look at me, yeah, okay. It was the weirdest thing. But that was how excited people were for Skyrim when it came out. And now that it's much later and I have better technology, yeah, I dig it. So if you're collecting for the PS2 or for the PS3 and you're enjoying games pennies on the dollar, that's one to consider. There's you won't be able to take advantage of the modding community, but it's probably the cheapest way to experience Skyrim, I think. What else do we have on here? We've got the Mass Effect series was real big in those days. I was listening to a lot of, you guys might remember Gooch and the Douchebag. They were huge into the Mass Effect games when the first 2 were. That was really before Mass Effect 3 came out, when Mass Effect 2 was what was popular. At that time, BioWare was really staying under the radar politically, and it was really just about the games. And Mass Effect 2 was like a superstar game in the industry at that time. So people loved it, and it was super awesome. GTA 4 was really huge at that time. That's another one that's like pennies on the dollar now. I remember playing a lot of Borderlands 2. That was a big PS3 game for me. My older brother would come over and we'd play Borderlands 2 split screen. Now, interestingly enough, he would actually take his PS3 with him. I had a PS3 at this time, but he would unplug his PS3 and bring it because that's when he wanted to play. He wanted to play it on his. He didn't want to play it on anybody else's. And I can't remember the reason. Maybe it was because maybe that was how we had to access our save data. But I don't know. I remember it was a lot of fun. Our split screens were really smushed at the time because my TV wasn't huge. But that's a good game that you can get for real cheap. Batman Arkham Asylum / Arkham City. I think that might be the last time that Mark Hamill ever played the Joker, who was, like, in my opinion, the definitive Joker. And then we had Little Big Planet. right? Little Big Planet 2 was the one that I had. That was another one that I had, like, strict download. And that was the first time I'd experienced, like, the user-generated content curated and available that way on a console, right? Little Big Planet 2 in that time was very much akin to like a Mario Maker or something like that. It was good. It's a good game, man. It was a good game. It's a little bit more abstract than the Mario games, but yeah, it was tons of fun. And unlike Mario, it was like solid drop in, drop out multiplayer through and through. So yeah, it was a good game. Last one is Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter 4 is another weird one because I remember that being huge when it came out, but it petered out over the years fairly quickly. Maybe it was because there were so many different like versions of it, but in its day, Street Fighter 4 was a game that was getting stolen off of doorsteps, and in the end, it was being sold at GameStop for $2. But I remember playing like the arcade edition and just loving it. I was loving it, but that wasn't the best fighting game on the PS3. Not by a long shot. It wasn't the best Street Fighter game on the PS3. Not by a long shot. And we're going to figure out what that was after the last Vancast. Stick with us. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's the Vancast. 59 degrees outside this morning. Feeling good. 59 degrees, and I'm back in my own car, which I'm super thrilled about. And you know what? Time to drive to work and go take care of my day. So last night I was hanging out with Alex Swingon. We were in Discord, just chilling, me and him. And I fired up Warcraft 3 and just started kicking around in a custom game. Right? I figured I'd do a little scrim while we were talking, which I enjoyed. Since I got the full install that Blizzard distributes now, with all patches and whatnot ready to go. I didn't want to do the story mode, because everybody shut up, it's a cutscene. But just clicking around, and you know what? I had a great time. I played as the ogres. I did a 1v1 against elves, dark elves, high elves, something like that. And it didn't go well. I did lose pretty hard, but again, I'm still kind of learning how the game works. It went a lot better than last time. The first time I played it, I was kicking around learning relearning how the interface works, because I played like Warcraft 2 a little bit, and this is pretty similar in some ways. And while I was learning, the opposing team was building, and they rolled up with like a preliminary force, the kind of force you'd send in just to scout it out, see how it goes, and they wiped me out. They wiped me out. This time I was able to raise an army. And then when I attacked first with my army, and when I rolled up with my forces, they just had more. I was like, all right, now I know how to play the game. At least I can start, focusing on doing better and going quicker. So I'm enjoying it. Super cool, man. This morning I woke up knowing I didn't have enough time to really dig into Warcraft 3. I instead opted for cruising the internet, looking for custom maps. This is a thing Alex was telling me, that all of the custom maps for Warcraft 3 are super small. So I was able to find like a really old site that's been around forever. Downloaded a few mods, which is pretty cool. I got battle tanks, and I got a couple of scrimmage maps. And just for fun, I picked up a copy of some random version of the original Dota. Getting Dota is tricky because there are a lot of different versions that, and on the site I was looking at, they were all listed individually. So I'd have to go figure out what the actual most updated version is, and then get that. But I got something just so I could kind of like take a look at it. I got Dota, and then like an alternate version of Dota. I can't even remember what it's called now. Dota All-Stars, I think. So that was neat, just like kicking around, getting mods. And it really reminded me like how terrible this modern computer games are in that respect. Because you used to be able to just do that. You would just go get, patches that would completely change the games, and these open moddable games. And that we see so little of that these days. Some games you can still, but yeah, not like it used to be. Now we got companies like Bethesda who like allow you to make patches, but they lock it down. So some of their mods are like for sale. It's weird. It's very weird. Yeah, but that was fun, getting some mods, and hopefully tonight I'll have the chance to go home and give them a try. I'm excited to try the Battle Tanks one that came at a recommendation. So yeah, that should be fun. And that was my evening last night and my morning this morning. And for now, I'm headed off to work. No sign of my partner in crime, Durabka, though. I was hoping to bump into him online so we could play some Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. I want to finish Knights of the Round, which is a side-scrolling beat 'em up game on the bundle that he and I played together. I'm looking forward to getting that one completed. So yeah, it's interesting how I guess it's not interesting, but what I'm looking forward to for the weekend has changed completely. Because right now I just want to get home and play more Warcraft 3. Here's the thing about Warcraft 3. This is a game I missed out on. All right, back in the early days of me being on YouTube, one of the things that I did was I tried making videos where it was like, all right, I'm going to talk about all the other videos that have been out right now, and I'll make a little awards show. And I would reach out to the different video creators asking to use their footage, and I got in touch with several people that way who were like out in the public eye, which was good for me at the time. And one guy, like the first one I made, there was a guy named Jason Urita whose videos are all gone now. And he had some really good like early YouTube videos out. One particularly about like the shareware era. It was like a video essay called The Shareware Revolution, and I've looked for it. It's gone now. But at the end, he made like an hour-long video all about Warcraft 3. Now, mind you, this is an hour-long video in 2009, when in order to make an hour-long video, what he had to do was make 6 different parts at 10 minutes apiece, and he uploaded them outside of YouTube somehow. I don't think we had Blip TV at that point, but some other service, so that he wouldn't get in trouble. I don't know, is that why he'd uploaded it outside of YouTube? I don't know. Yeah. So I remember watching this hour-long video about Warcraft 3. This was 10 years ago, and Warcraft 3 was already old by then. Sure looked cool though. It's fun to finally play it. And that's the way it is, man. Sometimes you miss out on games. You gotta circle back later in life. Alex pointed out that this was a game that I was getting ready to throw out. Or not throw out, but give back to the thrift store. He was like, no, man, try it first. He was right. No doubt about that. I still can't believe the CD key still worked. I've had this disc for so long. It's been at least 5 years. More than that, because I think I got it before my daughter was born. So I probably bought this thing from the thrift store before you had to input the CD key to get the digital copy. I think during that time you probably could just go download the patches and work off your CD. I don't know. Who knows? I'm guessing. Alright, how far are we in? 8.5 minutes? And I'm just rambling about Warcraft. I had been meaning to get Warcraft 2 off of GOG, and I haven't yet. Now I'm getting my Warcraft fix, which is pretty awesome. So that's all. I dare Blizzard to make a game now that's as moddable as that. Could you imagine if Overwatch was as moddable as Warcraft freaking 3? Could you imagine? I don't even know how that'd work. Yeah, new maps. Get yourself some new maps. It's only like 10 megabytes a map. Just download one. There you go. There you go, laddie. Save it in a folder called /maps. Oh, this map has tanks instead of people. Tracer has been replaced with a tank. Never again when you can charge people per map and per model and per outfit will we see this sort of modability. Could you imagine that sort of modability in a Street Fighter game? That'd be awesome. That's why Mugen got so popular. Alright. I've done the rambling about mods and how sad it is we don't see them like we used to before, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole anymore. But I will say, this is why I'm a PC gamer. This is why the PC remains the best platform of all platforms. Because this sort of thing could never happen on a console. Never, man. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. And in the meantime, I'm going to go to the office and I'm going to do my Thursday at work. See you there. So what was the best Street Fighter game on the PS3? Well, you better believe it was Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Because that was... Okay, I got Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and I immediately fell in love with it. And I was crushed that none of my friends cared about this game. I was crushed. Street Fighter 3 took the Chun-Li character and they put her top of the tier list. Like a clear top of the tier list. So she was who I would use, okay? I would play that game online. I would use Chun-Li. It wouldn't do great. But I loved it. And then Enji would come over and he would use Ibuki. So we would have, and now the thing you gotta understand is Enji is 100% better at these fighting games than me. He's always been better at fighting games than me. So it's really tough to beat him. And whenever I do win, it was a really savor the flavor kind of moment. So getting good with a top tier character, it was pretty even. When he would play Ibuki and I would play Chun-Li, and we would have these super heated bouts where we would just make match after match after match after match, and it was a dead heat and it was always close. It's probably the most evenly matched we've ever been in fighting games ever, and it's probably some of the best, some of the greatest fighting games that I've ever played. The greatest time I've ever had playing fighting games was when we played Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and also when my older brother and I first got our hands on a copy of Darkstalkers for the PS1. I used to main Bishaman and he mained Felicia. Those were the best, were also some of the greatest fighting game times ever. Let's see. So Third Strike was a big one. Now, I don't know if you can get Third Strike on a disc for the PS3. But I got that in the PSN. Now, for the sake of time, I got to shotgun through the rest of this. Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger is a fun game you can get for pennies on the dollar. Tomb Raider HD Trilogy is a great game. I love Tomb Raider and the Crystal Dynamics edition, the Crystal Dynamics rendition of the Tomb Raider world. They did a good job, right? So those games are really good, and that's super cheap. Twisted Metal is a huge one. Now, I only got to play Twisted Metal once, but here's the thing. The last podcast, I said that Twisted Metal Black was probably the last great car combat game. That's probably not true. I think Twisted Metal for the PS3 might be the last great one, but I didn't get to play it very much, so that might actually be on my get list. It might be the last game I chased for the PS3 ever. Other games I have good memories of. Burnout Paradise is not much to it, but it was an early game that I played. Bayonetta it really came onto the scene on the PS3. Soul Calibur 4, again, pennies on the dollar. That was a great game. Disgaea 3, that was my introduction to the Disgaea franchise. My older brother got me a copy of that. And I also remember playing Battlefield 2 Bad Company and having a great time with it. So those are just some picks for the PS3. The PS3 for me, it is the era where I was becoming a father. It was the era when I was entering college in my late 20s. It was the era when I think I might have been... help me out on this one, guys, but I seem to remember being on hiatus with TCR. I wasn't taking TCR seriously like I am now, but it was around. So yeah, it was a weird time. And our PS3, the fate of the PS3, it still gets used on a daily basis. It's our multimedia machine. Kids watch Blu-rays on it. We use it to watch Amazon or Netflix and all that stuff. We do all that on the PS3. We just, that was what we stuck with. I never saw any reason to jump for the PS4. When the PS4 came out, I wasn't sold on the idea, and that's how it stayed. And to this day, I could take it or leave it. But that PS3, that had some great memories on it. And there's some games on there worth chasing down if you want to get one today. With that, boys and girls, let's head over to the Vancast, because we got a lot to go over on the Vancast, and we're already past the hour mark. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm using up all my video game time recording TCR. All right, let's go. We're going to Gmail. We got one from Hemrock. Hemrock wrote an awesome email. I can't wait to read. All right. It's loading now. Bear with me. Greetings, Critical Failure. What a great episode. The last TCR goes down as one of my all-time favorites. Wow. I really enjoyed the PS2 Classics theme. Here are some more PS2 games that I think your audience may enjoy. Rogue Galaxy, probably one of the best JRPGs for the PS2 that was not associated with Square Enix. Gran Turismo 4, great simulation racing game. I bet the game still holds up to this day, but be warned, it is challenging. This ain't your daddy's Super Mario Kart 50cc. Activision Anthology. Wow, this is my favorite Atari 2600 compilation. Not only do they have over 45 titles, but the presentation is fantastic, not to mention the quintessential 80s soundtrack. Now, if you enjoy the 2600 and you have a PS2, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. The game also includes the aforementioned Hero game you discussed in the last episode. Also a bit of trivia, I've included a copy of this game in the Retro Junk Box. So a tip of my hat in the general direction to whomever picked it up. Yeah, I saw that in the forums, so enjoy that, because it wasn't me. God bless. Speaking of the Retro Junk Box, I still never got it back. Please, if you have the Junk Box and you're listening to this episode, shoot me an email or post in the forums. I would like to try a Junk Box 2.0. If you're listening to this episode, sorry, I messed that up. Cul-de-cept. This one may cost your listeners a couple weeks worth of their allowance, but it's quite an interesting gem. It's a collectible card game played on different terrain layouts. Think Magic the Gathering meets Mario Party minus the mini games. Okay. Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, a surprisingly fun action game. Usually movie-based games aren't for their outstanding gameplay, aren't known for their outstanding gameplay. However, if you're into real-time hack and slash fun, you might want to give this a try, or even if you have no interest in Lord of the Rings, because it's usually pretty cheap. All right, quick question for you. I have a copy, not of The Two Towers, but what's the other one? What's the one I have? I have Lord of the Rings: The Third Age on the PS2, and I've never played it. How is that? Ratchet & Clank, Up Your Arsenal. Honestly, I never got into this one, but the people on the internet tell me it's amazing. Now, what's the one I have? I have a Ratchet & Clank game as well. Okay, I have Going Commando, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't really sold on it. When I played Ratchet & Clank, for me, it was like I would have loved this if I played it 15 years ago. I played it, too late in life. But he goes on. The Suikoden series, particularly Suikoden 3 and Suikoden Tactics, again, these are games I didn't really get into, but they are another well-respected RPG series like Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, they might scratch that role-playing itch. Yeah, I am aware of the late series Suikoden games on the PS2. They're much more attainable. NG had them at one point, and I really wanted them, but I never pulled the trigger. But he goes on. Lastly, compilations. The PS2 had an absurd amount of compilations, several of which are worth owning. Capcom Classics Collection 1 and 2, but be warned 2 can get pricey. Mega Man Anniversary Collection, both the original and the X series. The Sega Genesis Collection, SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1, Taito Legends 1 and 2, and again, the second one can cost a bit of dough. The Sonic Mega Collection Plus, yes, it's different than the Genesis Collection. Notable for including Sonic 3, which is not included in modern Sega collections, such as on Steam. Nor is it included in the aforementioned Sega Genesis Collection for the PS2. I think since Michael Jackson passed away, his estate is clamping down on the use of the Sonic 3, as it included some of Michael's compositions. Weird. Yeah, there's some great collections, actually. I've got a couple. I've got some in the retro junk box, actually. Give me a second here. Yeah, there it is. I got the Sonic Mega Collection in the retro junk box. I was really proud of that. But he goes on. I want to add to what you said about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Those interested in the title might find it worth picking up the Xbox version, provided they still own a functional original Xbox, as you can create a custom soundtrack. That was my favorite part of the game. I put together a mixtape of sorts that I burned into my Xbox, including some of the songs from the original Tony Hawk game that I could now play in the third installment. I suppose you could get the same effect by streaming music from your phone while playing, but the whole in-game custom soundtrack fascinated me. Regardless, I think the Xbox version has slightly better graphics for what it's worth. Yeah, quick side note on that. I don't have the Xbox version of 3, but I do have the Xbox version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater X2 or 2X or whatever it's called. And you're right, it is very nice. Very nice. But he goes on. Your story about the PS2 launch was great. I appreciate your old gaming anecdotes from back in the day. It's one of my favorite aspects of the show. Unfortunately, these fables only come around infrequently, with the exception of your How I Found My GBA story. That tale seems to pop up every 10 episodes or so. Haha. How long did you and your brother wait for the PS2? Did you chat up people online? Did you bring a Game Boy Color to pass the time? I'm just curious what the other details were that occurred on that momentous occasion. What launch games or games did your brother buy? All right, a couple things about this one. I don't remember it being a line because it was a really small, intimate group. We were just kind of clustered together. We waited for probably about 45 minutes. I remember talking to one gentleman who was much older. This is a guy with gray hair. He was an old gamer. And he was talking to us about old computer gaming. Like, I want to say Apple II, but I don't know if that was the computer. But he had some way to pirate games where you would like put a guitar pick in the disc somehow so it would cover a hole or something. It was very weird. I don't remember the details of it, but it was I loved talking to somebody who was older about older computer gaming, because even in those days, right, I had an old computer that had belonged to my father that had, 5.25-inch floppy diskette drives, and I had a handful of 5.25-inch floppy diskette games, and those were games that I spent a lot of time on. And even in those days, I would play the computer games because my older brothers would be on like the PlayStations and whatnot, and it was tough to get time doing those. So so I remember that, talking to this one gentleman. Now, in terms of the games he actually bought, the only one I'm for sure remember that he bought on launch was Madden 2001, but I know that wasn't the only game. I remember him getting Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore and not really being sold on it at the time. I came to love it later, but at the time I didn't like that you couldn't dash in the game. So those are the two games that I remember: Dead or Alive 2 and Madden. Let's see. Let's get back to the email because there's a bit more here. So I found a great deal on a PS3 online, and I took the plunge. There you go. I'm now a proud owner of a PS3 Super Slim, thanks in part to TCR. Auspiciously, there's a store nearby that I recently discovered that is now giving away PS3 games. I went a few days ago and I got some great deals. Sadly, I've not had time to play any of them, but here are a few. Uncharted for $1.45, Uncharted for $2. Stop right there. Stop right there. Those are 2 awesome games. You get a clap for that, my friend. Valkyria Chronicles for $8. Final Fantasy X and X2 compilation for $4.50. I don't really know a whole lot about X, but I know X2 is really cheesy. Don't be discouraged with if you try X2 and don't like it, because that's the fluff game. X is the real Final Fantasy game. Motorstorm for $2. Little Big Planet for $2. Little Big Planet 2 Special Edition for $3. Good on you. Awesome game. Mass Effect 2 for $4. Skyrim for $2. Yes, you read that right. Actually, if you really want to be accurate, it was $1.95. Still a little hard for me to believe they were selling these games at such low prices. Maybe if I can ever get Junkbox 2 off the ground, I can throw in a few PS3 titles. Anywho, I'll leave you with a few questions. When do you plan on doing the PS3 show? What are your 7 PS2 Desert Island games and why? If you had to recommend one classic console to someone interested in game collection right now, what would you recommend and why? Well, I better get going. Thank you for enduring another one of my long emails. Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. Hemrock, my man. First of all, let's get that junk box back and get that rolling. Because I think that's the final stop is where that one is. I'll have to check back on the forums, but I think we could follow up on that and make it happen. When do I plan on doing the PS3 show? Okay, so clearly we did that today, but the PS3 show was not going to be as good because I didn't have as many like personal memories. I remember more about wanting the PS3, I think, than I remember about actually owning the PS3. Because I think when we finally got the PS3, I think that my Steam collection was already off the ground at that point. And before too long, I was playing Trouble in Terrace Town, and I played that exclusively for years. And then there was Minecraft, and then Minecraft was like the game for me for a long time. This was all happening when PS3 was still like the king. You know? So I knew it wasn't going to be as good because I didn't have as much of an emotional connection to it as I did the PS2. But I gave you what I had. That's me and the PS3. We had a good time. Now it's a multimedia center, and I tend not to play it because my children, when I play video games around them, they come and take them away, which is what children do. 7 PS2 Desert Island games. I can't put together a Desert Island list off the top of my head, I don't think, for the PS2. But I can tell you, get Soul Calibur 2. I can tell you, get Tekken 5 because it has the beat-em-up game already built in and unlocked from the very beginning. Do I have anything up there that I can mention off the top of my head? The games I have handy are fluff games for the most part. Get Clock Tower 3. Get Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. These are all attainable games. I don't even know what the super rare games are. I bet there's amazing games to the PS2 if you A, can play import games, and B, money's no object and you can get everything that's rare. I bet like I'm playing like the worst games for the PS2. No doubt. But I'd have to do research, and these are just, what I know off the top of my head. If I had to recommend one classic console to someone interested in game collecting right now, what would you recommend and why? That's a loaded question because there's a lot of variables involved. Great time to collect for the Atari. A lot of young kids getting into the Atari because retro gaming is super expensive and the Atari is super attainable. You get the tactile feeling of the awesome cartridges. You get beautiful artwork. You use your imagination. The games are fun. They're cheap and they're fun. And that's what the NES was when I started collecting retro games. The NES was cheap and it was fun. And that's how I got in on that. That's what the Atari is right now. It's not the only game system that I would necessarily recommend. It's not a universal thing because it's not for everybody. PlayStation 1 is also an amazing system. I would recommend getting your hands on a PS2 and collecting PS1 games. Remember that the PS3 is backwards compatible with PS1. You can't put your that system that you bought. You can't put PS2 games in there, but yes, you can put your PS1 games in there. They will work. So one thing that I would recommend people interested in retro games, if you consider it retro, get a PS1 or a PS2 or a PS3. Any one of those consoles, collect PS1 games. There were a lot of really good ones. And that's not too many buckaroos. That's the way I look at it. I have to look at everything through the lens of what's attainable, because that's just the way, I don't know, that's just the way I am. It's just the way life has been for me. But Hemrock, thanks for the email. You will always get a chapter on the show whenever you write one of those. It's something I enjoy doing. So thanks for that. Now with that, let's head over to YouTube, because we got a couple from Mecha Menace that I know were sizable as well. So bear with me here. All right, we got 2 from Mecha Menace. Let's see. Since you mentioned enjoying 3D pinball games on PC last week, I recommend Flipnik on PS2. It has a variety of animated tables, various themes with multiple challenges, and they all link together in a 3D environment. It's published by Capcom of all companies, and it makes me think of Enhinder for the PS1. Great game. By Square as a one-shot dip into a genre a company is not known for and excelling at it. It's cheap right now. I'll have to check it out. Thanks for the tip. Got one more. He writes. Oh, we got a couple more. This one was from 2 weeks ago. He writes, hold on to Thrill Ride. He's talking about Pinball Thrill Ride. I'm pretty sure it'll never be re-released since it licensed Hershey Park attractions in the game. Yes. Thank you, my man. And then he writes a big one for last week. He says, launch day of the PS2 was a mythical monster. Sony touted such crazy powerful tech, Iraq purchased truckloads of the machine to build a supercomputer, supposedly. Yeah, I remember reading that too. It was a struggle to hold on to my pre-order, but I felt lucky when I unwrapped the machine on launch day. I remember laying beside it on the carpet, hearing its supercharged fans sucked air through the front and having a jet out the back. I remember staring at its green and blue eyes. The only thing I had to play on it were Aliens and The Nightmare Before Christmas on DVD, and a good supply of PS1 games, which I could test out all the graphics and load the speed enhancements off the new drive offered. The game I was forced to pre-order by in advance to hold was pushed back. It didn't matter though. The factory fresh plastic still oozing scent as it cooled from the molds, probably poisonous. That 2-step process to turn the machine on and the special way to turn it off. The ability to read DVD gigs full of data and heavy, impressive black monolith look had me hypnotized. In hindsight, I should have taken advantage of the holiday hype and sold it on eBay for $1,000 more, since the first game I purchased was in March of the next year, Zone of the Enders. It's funny thinking back to that day now, since I find abundant PS2s for $3 with their vents caked in mud. It was always a plaything, a toy. Another reason I felt a special connection was because I heard the same stories about people getting jacked for their PS2 games as they left the stores or Craigslist meetups. Maybe I'm jaded by the years or the prices at garage sales, but I haven't felt the same hype of spending hundreds of dollars on a machine and games since the launch day at PS3. Well, you know what? In those days, look, I wasn't garage sailing in those days. So I can't really say too much, but I can say there's no way you could go to a garage sale and get like the super awesome 3D technology games on an optical disc for $1 like you can now, or like you could a couple years ago. You might have been able to do garage sales at that time and get NES games because they weren't cool yet. But now each generation of console takes these baby steps forward, and you can get the last generation, for pennies on the dollar. So that, yeah. So I agree. It's hard to get excited now. Mecha Menace, my man. Awesome to hear some follow-ups on the PS2. It was a really magical time, wasn't it? It really was. I gotta say. And with that, boys and girls, we're almost an hour and 20 minutes in. Jeez Louise. My throat is sore. I still have to do all the administrative work that goes into making one of these. So I just want to say thanks for hanging out, It's one thing I used to say at the end of every episode. I don't think I say it enough, is that time is the most valuable currency. So I value the time that you spend hanging out here. Just chilling, talking about games, remembering the old days. Do you think we'll ever have a launch? Like, think back to how amazing the PS2 was. Do you think we'll ever have something like that again? You know, if the answer is no, I don't want you to be discouraged, because our kids might. And I think that'll be enough. Because I look at my son now, and I see how excited he gets for video games. And in that excitement that he has, the magic comes back. Just a little bit. But as a father, I do get to experience it again. So I wanted to share that with you younger guys who might be feeling the jadedness that comes along with just starting to mature, is that the magic does come back. So take heart. Take heart and look forward into the future. And get some PS3 games while they're still cheap. Have yourself a good time. God bless. I'll see you next Monday.